Michelle, how are you?
Good, John. How are you?
Great, thanks. So, Michelle, I know we've talked about doing this for a while, and now kind of here we are, right? We're talking about connected dealer services. It's not just a GPS company. I got to start off by saying that
Yep.
going into this originally when we first met, it's probably been a year or so ago now.
Yep.
I thought that this was just another, not to diminish the name, but another GPS offering by and large across the spectrum.
Absolutely.
It is not. And so, as opposed to me taking the chance of talking about this myself and butchering it, I thought I'd
Mhm.
bring on the expert.
Sure.
So, Michelle Goedken, Connected Dealer Services, what is your role there?
Sure. Um, well, first of all, thanks for having me on. And
Yep.
you're right. I love that you started out with just that. Like, we are so much more than just a GPS company, and that's really something we pride ourselves in. So, thank you. I appreciate that intro. My role here is Vice President of Sales at Connected Dealer Services. I have been in the telematics space since, I think, aging back a little bit to like 2005. So we've obviously come a really long way since then. So I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. So, connected dealer services, I know that there's so much to it. And like I said, the last thing I want to do is butcher it.
Yeah.
It seems to me that it's kind of segmented up into different types of dealers and what their needs are.
hmm
So, can you talk about kind of how connected dealer services is broken up in the different divisions, I guess? Maybe that's the right term, maybe it's not, but
Yeah.
kind of how that's
Yeah.
broken up.
Yeah, sure. So you're right. Um, Connected Dealer Services is a company that has various brands under it. So really, depending on which dealership we're talking to, um, depends on which brand would fall under it. So if we're talking to a buy here, pay here dealership, obviously we would go in with something like a recovery tool. So that would fall under our Advantage brand. And if we're talking to a franchise store or a large dealer group, we would talk about a product called CarRx by Elo GPS. So various brands under a large umbrella, and it all pulls together with telematics and data that we deliver back to the dealers and consumers.
I have some experience in again, not to label it, but the GPS
Yep.
space that pertains to dealers, right?
hmm
And it seems like that there's a great opportunity for dealers when it comes to inventory management, and really kind of any GPS company can do that portion, right? I mean, if all the cars have the devices on them, they'll be able to
hmm
find.
Yep.
With that being said, though, I know that there are some differentiators between what Connected Dealer Services does in that space for dealers versus some other offerings, if you will.
hmm
Can you talk a little bit about like these large dealer groups with immense amounts of inventory? And I know at one point I had watched you on an interview talking about risk. Can you talk about that a little bit and like why this is so important and why this is on time right now?
Sure. So again, just going back to Connected Dealer Services covering the entire automotive industry with various brands of products, catering to the type of dealership that we're working with. So again, we work with anything from a small buy here, pay here dealership, mom and pop, to protecting their assets. But what's really important in this world is that it goes beyond just protecting the inventory on the lot. So what we do that sets us apart in this industry is we give the dealership real-time data and real-time information. And it goes so far beyond just the location of the vehicle. We also provide like vehicle health insights, so they can be aware of the conditions of the vehicles in real time while they're out on the road. Um, Again, we work with single or multi-rooftop independent dealerships, providing them with a stolen vehicle recovery product that keeps their customers coming back to them, whether it's for service or possibly trade-ins, and then all the way to large dealer groups. So, we're always looking for a way to earn additional revenue, right, at the dealer level, whether that be in a buy here, pay here dealership or a large independent or franchise store. So this product really has a way of bringing those customers back to the dealer and providing kind of a fixed op solution so they can stay engaged with their customers.
Great. So when you say fixed ops, and I'm going to
Mhm.
hold that really, really good one until later, because that's the one
Yeah,
that I'm super passionate about, as you know. When you say fixed ops, you're talking about that there's a service element to this post sale, right?
absolutely there is. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. It's
100%.
yeah. I mean, based on everything that I've seen, it's so cool how this has kind of evolved, and now it's involved in pre-sale and time of sale and post-sale, and there's kind of a life cycle to this.
Yep.
So let's start with the smaller dealers, right? Because you
Okay.
mentioned this, right? So let's say that I am Joey's Auto Sales and I've got 50 cars in the ground and I'm doing pretty much all buy here, pay here.
Sure.
Talk about that offering for a second, if you would, and kind of why it would make sense for me to look at this.
Well, I think what's important to point out is, several years ago, there was the offering of GPS being the solution where it's a recovery tool only, right? If the customer doesn't make their payments, you have a way to be able to locate that vehicle, send it out for repossession, and get that asset back. And I think now more than ever, it's really important to understand that there's two reasons that customers stop making their payments. One of those being, economic pressures, right? Like everybody's felt that over these last few years. But the second reason is actually due to mechanical failure, mechanical breakdown. So if you're looking at just that, how can we prevent a customer from stopping making their payments? The best way is for that dealer to be able to have direct line of communication with that vehicle, not just knowing the location, but knowing the condition of it as well. So that's what we're able to provide for a buy here, pay here dealership that really sets us apart. The dealer is able to go in and actively see, hey, so-and-so had this active check engine light come on this morning. I can speak about my own personally. My vehicle has an active check engine light on it right now. One of my dealers reached out and he said, hey, you better get this taken and you better get this looked at. Like your car's going to go, it's going to go haywire on you. And it happened to be a thermostat. So, just having that direct line of communication. And also what's important to know too is if you can reach out to these customers and you care about them, you want to make sure they're coming back to you for service. And if you can engage in that relationship with them, the chances of them coming back or referring their friends to you, it's like 74%. People that service with you will come back to you time and time again. So if you're not taking care of that customer and all of a sudden in 3 weeks, you realize that they've got a blown engine, you're not going to collect the payment on that. So that's one thing that, the Advantage brand really does well at is we can offer really those vehicle health insights back to the dealership so they have a way to be able to see what's going on with that car.
So you're telling me that Joey's Auto Sales with these 50 cars in the ground, that I go through and I pre-install all of them with the Advantage device. Customer comes in, decides to purchase one of the vehicles. I do a buy here, pay here deal for them. It doesn't really end there, and it's more so than just a recovery tool. So you're telling me that I can real time go into a portal and see that that vehicle that I sold has a check engine light.
Yeah.
Try to head that off at the pass before it's an issue and the car breaks down and the customer stops paying.
Yeah. That's right. So there's a lot of benefits from the dealer side. So let's start there and let's talk about just for the dealer themselves. You preload your lot, right? Every vehicle sitting in your inventory has a device on it. And every morning you receive a report and it'll tell you, hey, you have ABC vehicle with low battery. You have ABC vehicle with low fuel. So the dealer themselves is gaining a lot of information just from those cars sitting on the lot. And then, once that vehicle goes on the road, they sell it to a customer, they still have direct access into that vehicle, into those vehicle health data points.
Way, way, way back when I worked in buy here, pay here.
Yeah.
I start, right? So we did a lot of buy here, pay here. We did traditional deals too, but a lot of buy here, pay here.
Sure.
And even then, we're talking about late 90s. I don't want to date myself too much, but
yeah,
I mean, even then, if the car broke down, one of the very first things that the customer would say is, I'm done paying. I'm not going to pay for a car I can't drive,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing not a lot has changed since then, right? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I would, like I said, that's a number two reason why customers stop making those payments is that the vehicle has an issue. So if you as a dealer can reach out and get ahead of that problem, maybe it's something small that's going to lead to something really large. If you can reach out and you can get ahead of it and say, hey, it looks like you've got this going on with your vehicle. We're going to order a part. Let's get you back in here for some service. While you're here, we're also going to offer you, maybe it's a free oil change or whatever the case may be to get them back in there, get the car fixed, get them back on the road again, and you can almost guarantee that they'll continue paying for it.
Yeah, it's great. So before we move to the kind of the next segment of dealer,
Yep.
let's talk a little bit about, I mentioned it earlier. So I saw an interview with you and you were talking about elements of risk for dealerships right now. And that's really for every
Sure.
dealer, right? It doesn't
Hmm.
matter if you're a buy here, pay here dealer, large independent, the largest franchise group in the country. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Talk about the risk stuff a little bit, if you would, and why it would make sense for a dealer to have a device on all of their inventory pre-sale.
Sure. Yeah. I think you hit a really good point there, John. So I think now more than ever, there's a lot of risk to dealerships. I mean, no matter which area of the industry you're working in, as technology progresses, as more social media, people talking on social media, I mean, there's literally fraud groups out there that talk on social networks about, different rings of things that they can move forward with. And I mean, there's just a lot going on. And the more that people are talking on social media, the more kind of we have to change our strategy and change our playbook. So in addition to that, in just going to auctions, like I just talked to a dealer yesterday and he said, man, I went there and the cars are so expensive. So the prices of the vehicles are higher. Therefore, I feel our company feels that protecting your assets sitting on your lot is probably more important in today's world than it ever has been. There was a report that Cox Automotive had recently put out, and it suggests that 2026 is going to look a little bit different than what it has in the past years. So I think it's important that we start looking into some different sectors of protecting those things that we've invested our time and we've invested our energy into. So if a dealership has every vehicle on their lot protected with a product, it's really a game changer. If something exits that lot or exits that dealership after a certain amount of hours, they receive a notification on it. So they can use it as a stolen vehicle recovery product just sitting on the lot, which could help in so many different instances. I mean, you could talk about insurance, you could talk about all kinds of different things, but I think just having that protection on your lot, no matter what type of dealership you are, is really important.